The reason that we're in court again is because you have a private coach that just so happens to work for the government, and he's praying. So you have a government employee and religion touching. That's the only reason we're in court.
Welcome, everyone, to Insights with Marcia. I am so excited because today we have an extremely special guest, and his name is Nathan Shackelford. Hey, Nathan, we're so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
And we share a few things in common, like we both went to the wonderful Texas A&M, Aggies. Yeah. And, I'll have to say something. My husband went to Texas.
Okay.
And two of his boys went to A&M, and he says that Aggie ring opens doors like you will not imagine.
It's true.
And that we are a fraternity.
It's true.
And it's very true.
Very true.
So sorry, I had to throw that in. So Nathan is with an organization, actually really with an organization, and you'll understand that in a minute, called First Liberty Institute. In fact, his dad started it. But let's start off with Nathan. Tell me a little bit about you. I know you're an attorney and you're with First Liberty. Tell us how you made the decision to go with your dad's business and everything else. Tell us.
Yeah, so I went to law school at SMU, went to undergraduate at A&M, law school at SMU here locally. And when I started at law school, I kind of realized pretty quick there's two different routes you can go. One is more behind the scenes, contracts, transactional, and the other one's more litigation. Saw pretty quick I did not want to do litigation. And First Liberty being a litigation group, realized, okay, that's probably not the best fit. And then as I was talking with my dad, he said, well, there's other sides of things that we do, and there might be some legal knowledge that you have that you could use to explain how our cases work to supporters and all of that. And so started part-time in law school and then went full-time right after law school.
Wow. So you knew that's what you wanted.
Yeah, as I got partway through, when I first got in, I didn't. And it took me a little bit of time to kind of look, but eventually that's where I landed. Yeah.
Awesome. So tell me, there's a good story around your dad when he was trying to decide whether to do one of two things.
Yeah.
So
my dad went to Baylor Law School and Baylor undergrad, and he was first in his class.
I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, first in his class at Baylor, could have gone anywhere he wanted, and did a big clerkship with a judge, got out, and was kind of struggling between, well, should I go and do something really meaningful spiritual work like working at a church, being a pastor, or maybe going to seminary, or should I do law? Obviously I have my law degree. What should I do? And he was praying about it and talked to one of his pastors growing up, and the pastor said, we have a lot of great Christian pastors, but we don't have a lot of his Christian attorneys. And that was what my dad kind of needed, and decided to kind of stay in it. And he was approached by some guys in Dallas that needed help on some pro bono religious freedom cases, and that's kind of how he got his start.
Wow. I love that. But I love that statement. There's not a lot of Christian attorneys. We have a lot of pastors. It was just perfect.
Yeah.
In fact, there's not a lot of attorneys that get to do pro bono religious freedom cases, but I think you have your pockets full of them. So how do you get your attorneys?
Yeah. So
cases?
We use a very different model than a lot of nonprofits. What most legal nonprofits do is raise as much money as they can, hire as many attorneys as they can. Then if you have a case in Dallas, you're going to send your attorneys from LA, New York, wherever to Dallas to do the case. They go back. But you're fighting big uphill battles against business, government, industry. And so generally your win rate's about 30 to 40% a year. We use a model that's very different, which is we know that there are a lot of really good Christian attorneys that went to law school to make a difference for their faith. And now they're in some of the biggest firms in the country. And maybe they're Christian, maybe they're also Jewish, other people of faith that say, hey, I want to do something for my faith, but I'm at a big firm. How can I do that? And so we have our on-staff attorneys, but if we have a case in Dallas, we're going to go approach that firm in Dallas and say, hey, if our on-staff attorney can help you understand this area of the law that you've probably never practiced in before, we take the client off your hands, we can take the media, we just donate your time. A lot of these attorneys are told that they need to do pro bono hours or it's encouraged. So if they're getting to do something that aligns with their faith, Now their passion goes along with something they're already being asked to do or encouraged to do. And they're one of the best in the world at it. So we get the best of the best donating their time for free. And from that, we've seen it's very cost effective. For every $1,000 we spend, we get about 6,000 donated back in volunteer time from attorneys. So it's a 6-to-1 of leveraging of resources financially. But then we've been doing this model for over 25 years now, and we've never had a win rate under 90% in a given year.
Wow.
And that's because of God's favor. You don't get to 90% good, including 9-0 the Supreme Court, if you don't have God's favor.
Yeah, yeah. And I would imagine they even know the judges in the area.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all that kind of stuff. It's just like amazing. So for people that don't know, what kind of cases does First Liberty take on exactly?
Yeah, so First Liberty is the largest legal nonprofit in the United States, where all we do is religious freedom casework. So there are other groups that will do similar things, but all we do is religious freedom. So it has to be First Amendment in the United States, religious freedom case law.
Awesome. And what I think is interesting, and I didn't ask you beforehand, this might not be the best way to plug it, but I'm like, I don't even care if you were an atheist. You want First Liberty to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, because if they can attack your religious freedom laws, they can take over everything. What would you say to that?
Yeah, we have a supporter that my dad tells this story of. After one of our events that we did, a guy comes up to him and says, "Hey, I'm actually an atheist. I came over from Eastern Europe. I saw in my country how when the government was to take over, the first thing that we lost was our religious freedoms. And after that, all of our other freedoms fell." And so he said, I'm an atheist, but I'm supporting you because I see how important this is for my kids and for my grandkids to grow up in this country. So yeah, if the one thing a totalitarian government can't handle is an allegiance to something higher than the government. So you have to get rid of that first. So that's why religious freedom is the first freedom and the one that we have to make sure we protect above all else.
Yeah. So do you know about how many cases you've seen in the last year, 5 years, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from our side, which is I think that we have, when you say cases, sometimes there's things that we can just send a letter,
Right.
something goes away.
I would even consider that, though.
Yeah, we probably do about 1,500 of those types of matters a year, and that we're just one group. So that number is going to be exponential of that. And then we have probably at any given time, about 60, 70 cases that are ongoing in the court system. But a lot of times we just have to send letters or for example, last week in Tennessee, there was a town just north of Knoxville that said has a policy that you cannot hold any political or religious activities in the park. Well, there was a man that wanted to do a Charlie Kirk vigil.
Oh, wow.
And to do a prayer vigil. And he was told, no, there's no political or religious activities. You can't do it. So that's one where we send a demand letter. Then we say, hey, you might want to think about what you're doing here. And they didn't back down. And so then the Attorney General of Tennessee just sent them a letter saying, you really might want to think about what you're doing. So we'll see. That was last week. But that's just an example of sometimes we have demand letters, sometimes we're in court.
Yeah. Yeah. I always get your emails about cases, and sometimes I go, we'll talk about cases later, but there was one, like a retired couple, I want to say, and he was a pastor, and they were in assisted living, and he just wanted to hold a Bible study in his own assisted living apartment, and they were ready to kick him out. And I thought, you just don't get to do that. So I think people, when we start talking about some of the cases, they're just going to be blown away at what's going on around the country. It's like, so thank you. So what do y'all see? What have you seen as far as the shift in culture or types of cases? Have you seen them shift?
Yeah, I would say there's different things that come with different times. A lot of people thought, oh, well, now if Trump's in office, that just means your job's going to get easier. Well, it maybe does in military, but besides that, California's still California, New York's still New York. Your local school board is still your local school board. So it doesn't really make a huge difference on that level. But what we've seen a lot over the past 4 years, I would kind of categorize into a growing number of two types of cases, or let's say three types of cases. The first one would be attacks on churches just for existing, essentially, of trying to use zoning laws to remove churches, to not let them be formed, or to try to say, well, you weren't, you don't have this specific permit. You really need this, and that's going to be $25,000 or $100,000. These types of things to try to discourage churches from even existing. And then when people violate those, being held at criminal liability, which is, we've never really seen that before. So we have a case where we have a pastor who's facing prison time for keeping his church open 24 hours a day to help the homeless get out of the cold. Not becoming a homeless shelter, but just keeping his church doors open, criminal liability. And he was found guilty where he would have to serve prison time. We have an injunction preventing that, but you have that type of stuff now where there's criminal liability on pastors for operating churches. So that is new. We've seen a few different of those. And then the second one I would say would be parental rights attacks. So attacks on really the rights of parents to direct their kids' upbringing. So a lot of different things with school choice and that, with education, and with forcing curriculum on students in the public school setting. There's been a lot of those. And then the third thing I would say is in the workplace, of just trying to push very extreme ideologies and saying you need to fall in line with what we want you to do in the workplace. So workplace attacks. I would say those are the three biggest jumps that we've seen in the past few years.
Wow. Let's hope Trump's going to help. But I'm like you. It's like they just things just keep pushing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this right here. F3.
Yeah.
Future, faith, and freedom. I think this is something you started.
Yeah.
And tell me about this. Why you started it? Because to me, I see this as we're all very interested in Turning Point right now, and their numbers, last I heard, have gone from like 2,100 chapters to applications that would make it over 100,000. So we've got a lot of school age. It's in the schools and the colleges, and then after that, I think you're feeling the need and the void there. So tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, so what I saw over time is, I went to Texas A&M for undergrad, and there's such great community in college and built-in community and a lot of ways to get involved. And then you get out of college and it feels like, what do I do now? And really your only options are church engagement or political engagement. Well, if you have church engagement, sometimes you have young adults ministry, but a lot of times that can turn into singles ministry almost in your 20s. And then if we're talking about political, not everyone wants to go join a political movement. And so a lot of people just felt like, I don't have a place that I fit. I don't have a community unless it's my kids' soccer team or, whatever my kids are doing. And so we just felt like there was something missing there. And so about a year and a half ago, started F3 with the idea of being educating, equipping, empowering 20s to 40s to really know what their rights are, to come alongside each other and have community by people that are like-minded, that may not go to your same church, be in your same denomination, but they care about their faith and protecting their faith. They care about protecting their kids. And then just ongoing education community of those things so that we can really retake communities and really dark places in the country by people just knowing what their rights are and taking a stand for those. And we've just seen that there's really been a need for that kind of community, but just it hasn't existed. So we're trying to provide that all across the country.
I would think that's wonderful, because I know so many of that age group are sitting in front of the TV going, I can't believe this is happening and this is happening. And they want to do something, but they don't really know what to do.
Yeah, because generally most nonprofits do is they say, okay, well, we need to exist for this year, so we need to fundraise for this year. So if we do stuff for young professionals, that's just a negative. They're not really going to give any money. And so we're going to lose money, and we need to raise money, not lose money. But for us, there's a couple issues with that. Number one is most attacks on religious freedom are happening to people when they're young professional. It's not when you're retired on the golf course. So if young professionals don't know their rights, then they're giving up their rights. We're losing rights. And so there's a huge need to educate that group. And then the second thing is, a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, they want to be a part of something, but no one is actively reaching out to them and saying, come join what we're doing. A lot of it is, if you happen to have money and you like what we're doing and you come give, that's great, but we're not going to go after you. For us, it's like, hey, we want to bring in all the young professionals that care about this to come together, do what you can with where you're at, and say, let's have community, let's bring change together with where you're at now. And no one really else that we've seen is really actively trying to do that.
If you love Insights with Marcia and you want even more, I have something for you. Go to my Patreon page, and there you'll be able to watch ad-free episodes that come out early, bonus content every week, my personal show notes, and you may even have a chance to get your questions answered on the podcast. So for $5, $10, or $20 a month, we will keep this conversation going. So go to patreon.com/insightswithmarcia, patreon.com/insightswithmarcia, and let's have some fun. Let's keep the conversation going. I hope to see you there.
Right now.
And when you talk about young professionals, I think about the PA that, suddenly they changed how the clinic is working, where she's doing, and she, as a Christian, didn't believe in doing gender-affirming care, in other words, changing sexes. And so tell me about that case with y'all, because that's that age group you're talking about.
Yeah, Valerie Klosterman up in Michigan. Her clinic got taken over by University of Michigan Health. And then when they came in, they wanted her to affirm certain things about gender affirming care, use of pronouns, that type of thing. And she said, hey, this is my faith. I can't do that. And they called her all kinds of things and they fired her. And then we filed a lawsuit. And just a couple weeks ago, they tried to get it moved to arbitration. And the judge said, no, this case is going to court. So we will be in court probably next year for that. But yeah, she has, I think, 3 young kids, if not 4. I'm trying to remember in my head. It's either 3 or 4 young kids.
And it seems like they told her you can't bring your Bible to work, you can't talk about Christian things, something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things if people want faith and work to be kept separate. But that's not. There's certain standards there, but not to that extent.
Speaking of, I'm going to well, no, I'll go to the book in just a minute. That kind of piqued my curiosity there. Well, we're all extremely sad about what happened to Charlie. We're excited for all the good that's coming from it. But is there anything you see? Your eyes are focused on this type of thing. Anything you'd like to say around that? How you see things are going to be or change? Or
yeah, I think really what we've seen is that it can be tough to take a stand. But people want to know who else is out there like them. Who can they stand with together? We don't have to stand alone. Who can we stand with together? And a lot of people have been looking for a form of community to say, what can I do? How can I give back? And that's really what we're trying to do with F3, is to say, hey, we have other people that'll take a stand with you. You won't be alone. You're not on an island, and you'll have us behind you with whatever's going on. All across the country. I mean, we have chapters in Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Orange County, Sacramento, San Francisco, Boston, New York, all over the country. And so we're trying to form these all across the country to really tell people, because a lot of people right now are saying, what can I do? And if you're in high school or elementary, it's great. There's Turning Point, you can get involved. But if you're a young professional and you're out of that demographic, you're out of college, I think this is a really good place to jump on and say, hey, we're going to do something. We're going to actually take a stand, and we're actually going to push the ball forward.
Awesome. So how can people learn more or possibly join F3?
Yeah. So if you go to our website, firstliberty.org/F3, there's more information on that, where you can learn about what F3 is, what we're doing. There's a sign-up page. And then we host events all across the country. So we'll be in San Diego. You'll be seeing this a couple weeks after our San Diego event, but our San Diego event is happening a couple of days from the time that we're doing this today. And then we've got a event in Dallas in November. So lots of different things going on. If you jump on though and sign up, get more involved, someone will reach out to you and
keep them up with all the
correct. We'll get everyone involved.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you just reminded me of this cool book right here. Okay, no better letter. So I'm going to ask everybody out there, how many of you think that it is written in the Constitution where it says the word separation of church and state? And I bet almost everybody's saying, of course it is. So tell us the truth, Nathan.
Yeah, that's a little kid's book that's done by our marketing department where we have a guy that did the whole book and basically walks through in a lot of things about where did that term come from. It's from a letter from Jefferson to a Danbury Baptist Convention and talking about what's going on with the Church of England and not wanting the Church of England to tell everyone what to do. So we don't want a state established church. We want it to be where there's a separation between the state impacting the church, not between the church impacting the state. And so that's a little kid's book that walks through all of that in a very easy way to kind of keep up with. And nowhere in the Constitution, really that comes from that letter from Jefferson.
I love that. So it's really not a kid's book. It should be the adults reading it to their kids and having a lot of aha moments.
Yeah, it's good for adults too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just remember people have always said that, and I'll be like, no, God needs to be at the head of everything. And so I like that this church was trying to push itself onto the state. Is that how you said it? Versus,
Yeah, it was required. A lot of states had requirements about serving in office for being a person of faith, or a lot of states in their curriculum and how they founded and their governing documents and all of those have faith very interwoven. So we see that all throughout.
Totally. I mean, the founding fathers, if you read any of their works, they were men of faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So here's what I think is so cool. How many cases have y'all taken to the Supreme Court?
9, and the 10th is on the way.
Wow. What's number 10?
It is called Olivier.
Oh, tell me about that one.
Yeah, Olivier is really important for a couple of reasons. Number one is it's really one of the first cases that we've had in probably at least 150 years, I think, that's looking at where's the line of what a state can do to restrict speech in public.
Okay.
And then the second is really looking at kind of government, some rules, some technicality stuff in the background. So what I mean by that is Gabriel Olivier is a street preacher who's actually became a Christian because he was saved by a street preacher.
Oh.
And so he was in Mississippi, small town, and the town had an ordinance that said you are not allowed to protest outside of the park at a public events a certain amount of time before the event, a certain amount of time after the event. So he started talking with people, street preaching, and they told him to move. And he said, go in this corner of the park in this roped area. And he said, hey, I can't do that. And they fined him. So he paid the fine and then challenged the law. And the state said, hey, since you challenged the law, there's this law that basically says whenever you are put in prison, you can't challenge the law that you're put in prison for. And since you paid the fine here, you're basically the same as a prisoner. It's basically the same thing as being a prisoner. So you can't challenge this. So he can't even get into court. So we went all the way up, and Supreme Court said, yeah, this is something we need to look at because the ramifications are pretty extreme, where you could say, hey, if we're in Dallas and the Dallas mayor says Tuesdays is worship the bunny day and you don't worship the bunny and they fine you and you pay the fine, now you can't challenge the law. There's no way to get into court. So it's a lot of this is just about court access, but then also the facts in here are the reason he's in court in the first place is because he was just trying to share his faith in a public space.
Yeah. Oh, that is fascinating.
So it'll be December, January.
Oh, that'll be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And have y'all won all the cases you've taken so far?
Yeah. So we're 9-0 at the Supreme Court, including 4 in the past, I think 3 years.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay. So let me ask you about a couple of other cases.
Yeah.
Anchorstone Christian Church in Santa Ana, California.
Yeah.
So what's happening with this case?
Yeah. So that's one, earlier when I was talking about the criminalization of things and the church zoning, falls into that kind of one, not criminalization, but just using zoning laws to go after a church. You have a Asian American church that's trying to start a church. They buy a building. They're told, hey, there are other churches around. You're going to be fine. And then they want to expand their worship service, expand the building a little bit. And the city says, no, you can't do that. We're not going to let you do that. And so we had to get involved and file a lawsuit. And we just settled with the city a few weeks ago, and they're going to waive all the permit costs now for them to do all that. And actually, I'm going to have to pay for some of the remodeling now as a part of losing that.
Because didn't they just have that building and had to just let it sit there for 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Oh, and now they're helping to pay.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. So we're in Texas.
Yeah.
Most of us here have been around guns a lot of our life because there's a ton of people here that hunt and all that. And so it may be foreign to New Yorkers, but his Tabernacle Church, tell us about what was going on with them with firearms.
Yeah. So a few years ago, the state of New York, in all of its wisdom, decided to pass a law saying that all houses of worship are carry-free zones, which means that your liquor stores, you can have armed security, your strip clubs can have security, but your churches cannot have armed security. So we immediately filed a lawsuit there and got an injunction pretty fast to say, no, that this law cannot be implemented in this way. And then the state of New York appealed it to the First Circuit and lost. And then they decided, okay, you know what? It's not worth appealing to Supreme Court. We're going to lose. So they just gave it up. But what was funny is as a part of losing, they had to pay attorney's fees. So we went to court to prove what attorney's fees were. And the judge a few weeks ago came out and said, hey, First Liberty, these are the specialists of religious freedom in the United States, and their rates deserve to be at the top echelon of all attorneys. So yeah, this your head lawyer, he's over $1,000 an hour. Your associate, he's over $700 an hour. And so it's some of the top rates, saying because First Liberty is elite, and he cited all of our Supreme Court precedent and all of that. But basically, we just had a judge that said that we're the best at what we do, basically.
A New York judge, no less.
Yeah. So really, really good opinion on that.
That's cool. I didn't even think about that. It's like now when there's small little cases, like Sabrina, you can tell me, I mean, small little cases like that, if I'm getting a cease and desist or whatever you would call it, I'm going, oh, I don't think I want to mess with them. So tell them about Sabrina. That, I've got daughters, and so that one, it resonated with me.
Yeah. So also a New York case, you have a senior who the school says, hey, if you buy this parking spot, you can decorate it however you want to. And so she submits her plans of what she wants to draw on her parking space, including some scripture and some things with her faith. And the school denies it. She redoes it. They deny it. They just don't want anything faith related at all on her space. And so we reached out to the school and they said, "What is this your official stance on this?" And they said, "Well, maybe we should go look." So they checked and they came back and they said, "No, that's not our official stance. We're going to let her do it." So she was able to redo her space. But because of her taking a stand, we had some media on that. We probably had at least 2 or 3 more of these across the country where other seniors have heard about that. And we've sent the letters, and it's resolved a little bit quicker than that one did. So.
Oh, doesn't that make you feel good?
Yeah.
I love it. That is so cool. Yeah. And if any of you guys want to subscribe, like I get your emails and I noticed from when I saw that this was an issue, and I thought, she's a senior. She needs to do this. Yeah. It didn't seem very long afterwards that it came up with a picture of her painted space.
Yeah.
And so I was able to tell y'all got that one resolved real quick. So everybody, you need to get their newsletter. It's really good, or the emails, I should say. Yeah. Okay. How about, tell us about Jace with Space Force. I just have always even loved the name Space Force.
Yeah, he was doing he was off duty. He was doing a private retirement ceremony. And he talked about how he was worried as a person of faith about some of the shifting politics within the armed forces, pushing certain ideologies and all of that. And he had investigations opened up into him because of what he said at a private retirement ceremony. So we've had to go to court to protect him, because when you have certain things put in your record, those things don't go away, and it can prohibit you from being promoted, those types of things. So we've had to go to court to protect his rights, for his speech rights in an outside ceremony, private ceremony.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the Department of Defense you're working with.
That one would be, I think it might be DOJ.
So we are going to have Drew Forsberg coming up pretty soon. So they'll hear a whole session, but there may be some people that don't even get to see it.
Yeah.
So I was at one of your events and got to meet him personally beforehand. And my husband and I were just enamored with him and his family.
Yeah.
Such a wonderful family. You can just tell these are great parents.
Yeah.
And they have awesome standards and goals. And Drew was just following his standard or his biblical beliefs for his life and didn't want to take the vaccine. So for the people that might miss that episode, you want to give them the lowdown on Drew?
Yeah. So, we, back when COVID hit, there was orders sent to everyone in the armed forces of, you need to get this vaccine. And First Liberty's not an anti or pro-vaccine group. We're a pro-freedom group. And there are things in the law that says if you are a person of faith and you are asked to do something in your place of employment that goes against your beliefs, you have a right to ask for an accommodation, and it has to be given as long as it's not an undue hardship on the employer. So here they say, hey, you have all these people in the military that say, hey, I feel something in my spirit saying I shouldn't do this. I'm going to ask for religious accommodation. So we help all these people do these accommodations. Well, there was administrative accommodations that were granted, personal accommodations that were granted, but not a single religious accommodation was granted by the military. And so we saw that, hey, they're just not going to accept any religious accommodations. So we said, okay, who's the group that we need to represent? Because we can't represent them all. So we said, okay, we're going to start with the Navy SEALs, because if you can't get behind them, you can't get behind anyone.
Exactly.
And took 35 Navy SEALs, won an injunction protecting all the Navy SEALs, just not to be punished while they're asking for an accommodation. Not saying that accommodation has to be granted, but just saying you can't punish them. You can't kick them out. You can't withhold pay. You can't bump their rank. You can't prohibit them from traveling. All these types of things. So start with the Navy, start with the 35 Navy SEALs, then became a class-wide injunction for all the Navy. And then the other branches started to pick it up before eventually Congress got involved and got rid of it. Yeah, so his story is great because it's, those SEALs, they did not have the weapons to fight in that type of combat. And they're not used to being in a courtroom. They're used to dealing with weapons and all that. And this is a very different fight. So we were honored to be able to come behind them and help them and set a really strong precedent throughout the country for them.
Yes, definitely. I like that. They're used to fighting with weapons, and the training they go through is like, oh my gosh. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
North American Mission Board. I thought that was kind of an interesting twist. We're talking religion and all that.
Yeah. There was an issue where Southern Baptist type deal. There was someone that was applying for, that was trying to work at a church, be a part of a church. And he had some stuff in his past that made churches not really want to do stuff. So people talked and said, hey, this is not a good person to have working for us. And then he sued the church. And really what it comes down to is what's called the church autonomy doctrine, which is the idea that when I was talking earlier about separation of church and state, you don't want the church getting involved or the state getting involved in the matters of the church. You don't want anytime someone gets upset about where their tithe dollars are going, for suddenly that church is in court, because then our churches would just be in court all the time. So church autonomy means that the state, really things within the church need to be resolved within the church when they can. And there needs to be very, very little times that we're in court for anything church related. And so that we won that case on appeal to make sure that try to protect that church autonomy doctrine.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's yeah. But if it had been a regular business, you could have yeah.
Correct. It's a whole
So
different situation.
it works both ways.
Yeah.
Okay, I know one I want to ask you about. Yes. Okay. So the lemon law, and this is not. I've had a lemon car before. It's not a lemon car. It's fascinating. Tell us about the lemon law, because this is huge and nobody knows about it. So all the different municipalities around the country aren't able to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the term lemon comes from a case called Lemon v. Kurtzman, back around the same time as Roe v. Wade. So we had a court that was very, if things aren't aligned the way that we want it to be, we're going to kind of create case law to create these new precedents that didn't exist. That's how you had Roe v. Wade and those types of cases. And so what Lemon said is, hey, I know we know separation of church and state isn't in the Constitution, but we kind of feel like it should be. So we want it to be anytime that religion and government intersect, that there's really strict scrutiny on it, very, very harsh. We don't want those two to touch. Anytime government and religion touch, bad. And we're going to make it so that anytime a public citizen sees anything like this happening, that we're going to give them the authority to sue, which if you're upset at how your tax dollars are being spent, you can't sue. But if you're upset about a cross being on government land, you can sue.
Interesting.
So that's why we've had nativity scenes, Ten Commandments, all of those, how we've seen those taken down is because of that. And so we had a case back in 2019 called the Bladensburg Cross case. It was a cross that was for fallen World War I soldiers in Bladensburg, Maryland. And then they needed to expand the highway, so they took it over by eminent domain, kept the cross. But then an atheist drives by, says, I'm offended, take it down. And then we go to Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, hey, the reason we're here is because of the Lemon case, because this is a cross on government land. So this is a religious item on government land. But we're choosing not to follow Lemon today. We don't really like it. We're choosing not to follow it. So we go, okay, that's interesting. So then we had our Coach Kennedy case that we can talk about a little bit more. But in that case, he was a public school teacher that was fired or not rehired because he was praying silently by himself after football games. And the reason that we're in court again is because you have a private coach that just so happens to work for the government and he's praying. So you have a government employee and religion touching. That's the only reason we're in court. And so in that case, the Supreme Court said, hey, just because someone works for the government does not mean they suddenly have to hide their faith. There's a difference between what you do when you're off the clock and what you do on the clock. Coach Kennedy here, the game's over, he's off the clock. He can express his faith however he wants. And the only reason that we're here today is because of this Lemon case. And we think this has gone on too long and we want to get rid of it now to show that people have the right to religious expression, no matter who their employer is, as long as it's in their own private time. Yeah. And so what that means is that all these things that we've seen of taking down Ten Commandments monuments, taking down nativity scenes, that law is no longer good. And there's actually a historical tradition of having Ten Commandments and nativity scenes and crosses to the founding of our country. And so there's historical value of having these things. And so if we go in and we say, hey, lemon's no longer a good law, we want to put a nativity scene on our fire lawn for Christmas. You have the ability to do that. That does not violate the lemon law that no longer exists.
So what advice would you give to somebody that's watching this? When you just said that, I thought, I remember the firehouse near my house growing up, and they had a nativity scene on the lawn. And I'm sure by now they've had to remove it.
Yeah.
So let's say they're listening to this and they're ready to go buy a new nativity scene and put it out there. They know they're going to get pushed back. What can they do? Do y'all have any information on the website? Like download this document, take it to the city council. What would they do to be able to exercise being able to use that decision?
Yeah, so we created, after we won the Coach Kennedy case, we created a division an initiative called RFI, Restoring Faith in America, with the idea of let's educate people and help them to take back their communities. And so part of that is helping people put up nativity scenes, Ten Commandments, all of that. So we have a whole division that does that. The website is rfia.org. And on there, there's all kinds of resources. And there's also ways to contact us to say, we're looking at doing this. What advice can you give us? How should we do this? And we have a team that can help people really navigate those types of waters if they're wanting to do that.
So it's rfi.org.
RFIA.
I thought
Restoring Faith in America. RFIA.org.
Okay, great. We have all learned so many fascinating things. Is there anything you want to tell people that maybe we didn't touch on? Any good, fun, juicy tidbit?
I think a good example, just going back to the young professionals deal and giving an example of how that can kind of play out. So I was doing a home event. I was speaking at a home event in San Diego about a year and a half ago. And there was a mom that got up at the very end and said, hey, my son is in 5th grade. He just came back about 2 weeks ago from school and had this book called My Shadow is Pink about a boy that feels like a girl on the inside pushing transgender ideology. And then he was told he needed to read this book to his kindergarten buddy and then ask the kindergarten buddy what color they want their shadow to be. And the parents said, hey, this goes against our beliefs. We're not okay with this. And so they asked for an accommodation from the school religious exemption to say, hey, this goes against our beliefs. We can't have our kid in this lesson. And the school said, nope, no accommodation. And the mom said, we feel so isolated, so alienated. And at that event, all these moms came around her and prayed with her. And then we filed a lawsuit this past fall, about a year ago, in California saying, hey, if you are doing something like this, you have to give parents notice and the ability to opt out if it goes against their faith. And we've all across the country, that's been a huge issue, but we've never had a really clear ruling on that. And so we're in Southern California. We asked for an injunction, which is we're asking the court to say, we need you to step in and protect these rights now because we can't wait until the whole court case is done. And asking for an injunction is a big deal, but it's also really hard in California. So we asked for an injunction. And the judge came back and said, I'm granting your injunction because you're right. The parent should not be forced to do this. And so we won an injunction earlier this year in California that said, hey, at this school, if you're going to do this for this buddy program, you have to give parents the ability to opt out and you have to give them notice. And that happened even before there was a Supreme Court case called Mahmoud that basically cemented that into law. But before that Supreme Court case was even decided, we had our first win there. So just one that shows there was someone in that community that knew what that mom was going through. They brought her into our community of what was going on. We're able to support that mom, have a case, and now protect those rights in California. And that's just from our ambassadors, our local people, our chapters that are really keeping their eyes out to what's going on.
Yes, it makes sense. And I love that. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Wow. It wasn't like when we were growing up, is it?
A little different.
There's like a whole new set of challenges out
Absolutely.
there. They need a good foundation at home more than ever.
Yeah.
Well, I can't thank you enough. This has been fascinating. All the work you guys are doing is just phenomenal, amazing, benefits every single member of society, whether they're right, left, in between, upside down, or right side up. It really affects everybody.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. And
absolutely.
Got to tell you a quick story. Whenever I've seen your dad at an event, he remembers my name. He remembers the name of the people we're with. He may only see us once a year. And that just blows me away. And it just kind of gives me a feel for the heart of your dad, how he cares about everybody that's interested in First Liberty. And he's just an astounding guy. So you're going to be known for First Liberty. He'll be First Liberty. You'll be F3. And tell us one more time of the web addresses for everything and also how people can donate. That's how I got to know your dad and the institution was I wanted to donate because I heard some stories like this and was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So if you go to our website, it's firstliberty.org. And on there, you'll see a give button if you'd like to give, however you want to do that. And then also on the website, firstliberty.org, on the About, you'll see the F3 under there, or you can go to firstliberty.org/F3 to get to the F3 website as well.
All right. Thank you for being here, and hopefully you can come again and update us on your cases.
Absolutely. Be happy to.
Great. Well, thank you all for listening today to Insights with Marcia, and we look forward to seeing you next time.